Skipster is the guest management platform used by top event teams for everything from guest lists to seating charts and online invitations. If you're looking for next generation event software that helps deliver perfect guest experiences, head over to Skipster's website. It's Skipster, ZKIPSTER.com to try a free event.
Are you a follower? Okay, so we're gonna be
Welcome to GatherGeeks, a podcast by BizBash, the place where people passionate about meetings and events come together. Here are your hosts, BizBash CEO David Adler and Editor-in-Chief Beth Kormanik.
Hi, David.
Hey, Beth. Here we are, another edition of GatherGeeks.
And we are well into September, which means that it is holiday party planning season. Some of our listeners are nodding yes, while others may be panicking. But it's true. And, while we've seen many fabulously designed holiday parties with over-the-top decor and entertainment, outsourced to event design and production companies, a lot of events can be more modest and planned internally by people that you like to call the hidden planners. So, David, tell us, what is a hidden planner?
A hidden planner is someone that they don't realize they have the job of being the event organizer for their organization, but it gets thrown on them because the type of person that kind of knows instinctually how to do it. And they're looking to BizBash to find out what to do in many cases.
Right. It's a surprise. You're the planner.
Yeah, surprise.
So our guest today is Lynne Wellish. She's a consultant and speaker for the hospitality industry, and she is going to speak to the world of the hidden planner. She's going to provide lots of tips and tricks on where to begin when planning an event like a holiday party, or another type that often gets put on the hidden planner's plate, which is a corporate board meeting. We are going to cover strategy along with points about vendor relationships and things to watch for in contracts, liquor liability, and more. And if you're not a hidden planner, please share this with someone who is. They may not be regular GatherGeek listeners. As we said, they might not know their hidden planner, but we want to make sure that this reaches them. So let's listen.
Lynne, welcome to GatherGeeks.
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me.
We are going to talk about the hidden planner today.
Excellent topic.
It's
Thank
either
you.
the bane of our existence or the future of the industry.
Correct.
What do you think?
Well, I think it's both. I think that organization, so we're here today at MPI WEC.
Yeah, we're in Toronto.
And I think that there's now a special interest group for administrative professionals. And so I think the future is administrative professionals more so than the meeting professional.
Are we going back to that? It was that.
It was that, wasn't it? When I first started out, and then meeting professionals they were actually under the marketing department. Whereas you find that the administrative professionals generally work for the CEO or the CMO, and a lot of times they work in human resources. So they're more event by event than planning the meeting, I believe. So I think it's a little of both. There's so much more education out there right now than when I went to school.
So what is it? So the CEO says, okay, we're going to do a sales meeting, or the sales manager or the CEO says, you're going to do the holiday party. I trust you. You're the person.
Yes.
We're going to do the big product launch. And it comes from the CEO's office in some cases. I mean, some places have much more sophisticated CMOs and things like that. But I would say that there's less of that than the more professional, would you say?
I would agree with you, especially today. As you know, corporations are leaner and meaner. And so even though some things fall under the marketing department, the CEO likes to have a bigger span of his employees and communication tools as well.
Yeah. So play out the whole idea of the hidden planner. The hidden planner gets the job of, let's start with the holiday party because it's the easiest example.
Exactly. So they're tasked with a holiday party. Most times only events and meetings or that they've actually planned might be a birthday party. Maybe they've done a wedding, so they have a little more experience. So they're not really aware of the skill set that's involved. They might be caught up in the pretty decor. How are we going to get snowmen? How are we going to get snowflakes? They don't realize that you have a budget to manage, that you're dealing with contracts, many times with hotels, bands, other suppliers and vendors, and the economic impact that has on the business once your signature's on that contract.
Not to mention the fact that the gathering of a corporate team together has got a huge impact on the ROI of the company and on the sort of the morale of the company. So you can blow it as quickly as you can have a hit.
Correct. And you raise an excellent point, David. A lot of companies have employee committees that are tasked with planning the holiday party. But again, they're caught up with, we're going to have Secret Santas. What kind of gifts are we going to exchange? They're not necessarily educated in the nuts and bolts of actually producing that event.
So if you're listening to this and you're tasked with doing a big event for your CEO and you're kind of like scared to death.
Right, you would be, wouldn't you? It's intimidating.
What is the path? What do you do first?
So I think the first thing, though, I would recommend would be to determine the goals and objectives of the event. And
literally ask the CEO. Sit down and come up. I mean, that's called strategy, right?
Yes, it is.
And so the idea is to figure out, and what is normally the strategy of a holiday party?
So normally I would think the strategy of a holiday party would be, number one, for the CEO to show his appreciation for his employees and their spouses, because you can't really have a job without your spouse support in today's economy, to show your appreciation, and also to have an event that your employees want to come to. So can I use an example of something that actually happened to me?
Absolutely.
Can I say the name of the company?
You can say anything you want.
Great.
This is like HBO. You can even swear.
Okay, great. So it was Discount Tire, of all things. They're based in Phoenix, and the CEO really was very generous and kind to his employees in many, many ways. And he had a very generous budget. And I think that's the next thing, David, is once you determine what your goals and objectives are, you need to know what your budget is, because that is going to parlay into the food that you order and the entertainment, the decor.
Okay, so how does the hidden planner know how to ask for a budget? Because they're going to take whatever is given.
Right. So that's what you do. You say, excellent. What is my budget? And then you kind of have to figure a per person price. So what the CEO, Bruce Haley, did of Discount Tire was, like I said, he really wanted to show his employees a fabulous time. So he booked his holiday party at the Arizona Biltmore Hotel. Well, when his employees, first of all, they were a little concerned. They didn't really know how to dress for that kind of a resort. And then they didn't know about valet parking. And then the food was served, and it was very fancy, very pretty, very expensive. And nobody liked the party. So the next year, what he did was he served a very low-key event and spent the same amount of money, double portions of turkey and dressing with a country band, and they totally loved it. So you have to also know the profile of your attendee.
And so what is it about the hidden planner, though, that made that mistake in the first place?
Because she was trying to do nice according to what the CEO and his wife thought was nice, not what was nice for the average guy putting a tire on your car.
So for the hidden planner, the person, so he or she should not just go to the CEO and say, what do you want? He should go and do a survey.
Correct.
Of his employees. And what does that survey look like?
So that would be like, if you were having a party, what would you like to serve? What kind of music do you want to dance to? What would be a fabulous gift for everybody to receive? Do you want to network? Do you want to meet each other? Do you want to sit by departments? I always like to have seating arrangements done, either by table or by place card, so people feel comfortable and they know they have a place. When you have open seating, when you say everybody can sit where they want, there's always those 5 or 6 people that really don't have friends at work, and they, again, feel uncomfortable. They're not part of the conversation. So they maybe sit on the outskirts and then they'll leave early.
So is that a hidden planner rule that you should put into your template for, if you don't have experience, these are the things that you need to make sure. And so assign seating, even if it's you can't do it in a cocktail party. But does a holiday party have to have a place? I mean, do people expect to eat and sit down at a meal? I
believe it's more successful that way, because you want to really create collaboration and networking and participation with your employees. It's a time where they can shine to who they really are than just an employee of your company.
But there's a whole school of thought saying don't do any tables that people don't want to sit down, all that kind of stuff. What is your feeling on that?
I feel that, like I said, there's always, my husband, for example, when I first met him, he liked to live on the wall. He was a total wallflower. We did go to his holiday party, which in Phoenix was at the Banquet Ballpark. He did not know a soul. He didn't know where to sit. He didn't even know how to navigate the event. I shouldn't say that. I encouraged him to try and be more interactive and maybe introduce me to someone that he worked with, but that's just not who he was. And so it was a really nice event. They had a lot of great interactive activities, but if it was me, I would have found a table, found someone I know, and started a great conversation. So instead it was like we were on a great date with 1,000 other people.
So people don't feel part of it sometimes.
Correct.
So you have to, as a person that's not a trained professional, it's a different game.
Correct. And so it might seem antiquated in a lot of ways and old-fashioned, but I really think it's better to have seating and it's better to have a meal. Sometimes when you have, I call it the DJ buffet, and maybe you do too. Weddings are famous for this. They come, you have a buffet, everybody goes through the line, they have a DJ, and it's done in an hour and a half. If you're going to go to all the time and trouble and put out that kind of money, you really want to have a very engaging experience where people walk away with such a great memory, and then you have a gift at the end that adds legs to the event. It really, so they can go, wow, we had prime rib and Caesar salad.
So it
that
becomes
was so
down
awesome.
to like you're dealing with people you're dealing in some cases with people that are not as sophisticated as somebody that's going out to your events on a regular basis.
Correct.
So many times if you're a hidden planner, you're dealing with an area that's not necessarily, they don't do a lot of events.
Correct. So, generally your sales team is out, they're networking, they're selling, maybe your service team is out, but there's so many hourly employees. So if you're the hidden planner, if you're in charge of this holiday party, you really need to assess what would make a great holiday party for you.
And what would when they're sitting down, like how do you engage people when they're sitting down and they're just the conversations at the table?
You can have table topics. Have you ever done that? Or
Yep.
you can seat them by departments, or you can seat them by what's your favorite holiday tradition? Who bakes cookies, who trims a tree, who goes to their mother-in-laws. Shake it up and break them into areas where they need to interact with each other. You'll be surprised at how many people come out in a leadership role in an informal situation.
In a hidden planner holiday party motif, for example, do you get a committee together? Is that the first thing that they should do? And if they're given the task of being,
committees are a little dangerous,
right? But But is it the inclusiveness that's going on today? Would you suggest that?
I would suggest that.
So that hidden planner has got to go for feedback and input, not from the principal.
Correct. You need to look at like I said before, look at the profile of who's attending the meeting. The CEO and his wife
or
the spouse, the event. The CEO and the spouse, they're going to be doing a lot of networking, a lot of holiday gatherings. So you don't want something geared to them. This might be your only opportunity to have a holiday event if you're on the loading dock, or if you're in the mail room, or if you're the administrative assistant of a department.
And so this is and your experience of the day after. What is the impact? Like every time, what we've had over the past few years when we've had a recession, the first thing people stop is the holiday party.
And now, is that not a mistake?
Well, it turned out to be a huge mistake. and after the recession, people stopped traveling, and that was a mistake. And so a lot of the people are realizing that this face-to-face thing is not something that they should just avoid.
Face-to-face is really important. And even in times of a recession, I think it's wise, maybe you could scale back the party. Maybe you'll do a luncheon, because as we both know, lunch prices at a hotel or a venue or a caterer are lower than a dinner price. But something to show your appreciation. I mean, your employees really carry a lot for you and make the company successful. And when you're at the top, or you don't necessarily realize all the tasks involved that they do that help you succeed.
So should a hidden planner, most of the companies in the world are small companies.
Correct.
Do you think that those hidden planners, the ones that are assigned with this, are probably more valuable than even in the big companies if they have a process for it?
Right. Correct. So my brother is a physician, and he has about 100 employees that work for him. And my sister-in-law always used to try and plan something really fancy schmancy. And the employees one day just walked right into him and they said, "Hey, Dr. Wellish, we really don't feel comfortable going to the holiday party this year." So what he did was he did exactly that. He found an eye technician, just a little hourly girl, and she took on the responsibility of planning that holiday party. And although it wasn't at a venue they would have selected, they had 100% turnout.
Right. And so the hidden planner is pretty much, there's always a personality in an organization.
Yes.
What are the skill sets that if it's not the assistant to the CEO, that is the person that you should give this task to?
So it's somebody that has an informal leadership role. The employee that everyone goes to because they're empathetic or they're sympathetic or they've been there a long time, they know how to solve a problem, they also know how to keep their mouth shut. So someone that people look to in a respectful manner in the informal setting.
And so it's kind of like there's this thing in events now called code switching, where there are 3 events going on at one time always. This is in regular events. Whereas the texting event, where they're looking at somebody and they're saying, that guy sucks, or this guy is bad. And then there is the polite physical world, and then there is the social media world where people are projecting their brand, which could be completely not them.
Correct.
So there's 3 or 4 different ways. So you have to actually, in your organization, find the person that has like the natural entertaining gene, or is it the natural?
Yes. And like we in our industry, we have anticipatory service. We know what people want before they want it, or before they know they want it.
Right.
So somebody that's nurturing and anticipatory of what's going to happen, and like I said, someone that people admire and respect.
So the other thing is with the hidden planning and the committee, you're an expert in selling into the C-suite. How do they pitch it? What's the best way to pitch an idea to the people that are paying for it?
I think you would have to ask them to, well, first you would have to say, I want to talk to you about something very delicate, and approach it in that manner, because it is a delicate situation. And then you could say, isn't crowdsourcing the great term that you use today? I've been crowdsourcing with our employees, and they were giving me some feedback that I'd like to share with you right now about the upcoming holiday party. Although I'm confident that you think it would be super fabulous to have it at this great Maestro City Hall. Isn't that a great restaurant? Our employees would feel more comfortable going maybe to a private room at the Olive Garden or Red Lobster or whatever their likes are. And then maybe put a little bit more money into the holiday gift, or give them an extra day off with pay. So there's other ways you can do it. But just to listen to what your employees are saying. Nice to you. Everybody has a different layer of nice.
Right. So what about the time frame? So the holiday is, we know that it's always in December.
Yes.
At what point does a small organization start planning the holiday party?
I don't think you can start planning early enough, because the larger companies take up the resorts and the country clubs and the off-premise venues. So what you need to find is a fit for you. So let's say, just like we talked about, your business is 50 people or less. So that's going to be a holiday party that you're planning for 100 people, maybe 80 will come. So you might be a sweet spot in a hotel for an empty room that night, because they might have 500 or 600 people in 2 or 3 of their ballrooms. But the earlier you start, the more flexibility you have. Also at that point, here's a great tip. You could call it piggybacking. You could say to your catering manager, what is being served in the ballroom for 500 people? Could I have that for my same menu? That will save you some money on your menu as well, on your entree.
Building a memorable experience for your guests means planning every detail right. Skipster is the guest management platform designed to help you create the perfect experience, from impressive online invitations to seamless check-in at the door. Get started at Skipster, spelled ZKIPSTER.com, for a free test event. Now, what about the time when people are sitting there in meetings for the holiday party and they could be productive? Is it as effective? Should the C-suite person be looking at that as a deterrent, a bad thing, or a good thing? That the fact that the employees are collaborating together.
I think it's always a good thing.
Yeah, but or they're thinking, oh my God, they're spending all this time,
right,
and they're not out
wasting
selling.
time. They're
blah, blah, blah.
not producing. I think you are producing. You're producing a team. You're producing good feelings.
Yeah.
You're learning to look at things through somebody else's vantage point and how they see things. We always used to joke around that one of the biggest challenges in a hotel is for the operations team to produce what the salesperson had sold. But
Right.
if you allow everybody to come together naturally,
Right. So let's go through the biggest challenges that someone that doesn't know what they're doing in the
Exactly.
business has to face, and give us your tips on
Sure.
this.
So the first challenge is you need to determine your goals and objectives of the event.
Right.
The second would be you need to know what your budget is, and you need to stick to that budget. Every person you meet along the way is going to be a salesperson. The DJ is going to try and sell you more smoke, more mirror balls, more party favors. The hotels or the caterer is going to try and sell you on a bigger meal. And is that really going to matter? Think back to an event that you went to a year ago. Do you remember what they served? So you want to make sure you have a good dessert and a good coffee, because that's the last impression people are going to have. You need to look at your entertainment. entertainment. And again, stick very much to your budget. That's going to be your guideline. Another great hint is to put aside about 10 to 20% of your budget in a little secret fund, because stuff happens and you need some money to cover that. Other things to look at is, and this just happened to a friend of mine, she booked a really nice event, a retirement party at a hotel in Phoenix, not even thinking they only had valet parking. So that added $12 for each person for the car. You also have to look at your liquor liability. Are you going to give everybody 2 drink tickets? Is it going to be a cash bar? Are you going to have wine at the table? And then are you going to play games? What interactive activities? So when I teach at our community college, I teach the dimensions of the event, and I'm sure you're familiar with them. So you want to create anticipation, have something exciting upon arrival, make sure the atmosphere in the room is festive, make sure there's activities for them to do, make sure the food, the appetite is meeting what they want, and then an amenity, something that's going to put legs on the event. So when they go home from that holiday party, they're going to go, that was so fabulous, and I have this trinket to remember, or tchotchke to remember it by. So those are some great hints for someone that's a hidden planner.
What about what are the biggest pitfalls? Like, what do they get tripped up on? Usually it's contracts and plus and all that. Explain those things for the hidden planner that they should be.
So what I like to do is I like to do it, can I say bass-ackwards?
Sure.
I lived in Texas. So I like to do it bass-ackwards. So let's say your budget is $20,000 and you have 100 people. That gives you about $200 a person. So that's just not your food budget. You've got to look at your invitations, transportation, entertainment, activities. Are you going to bring in a graphic artist, a caricaturist, a balloon twister? And then you need to look at your amenity. So I like, for me, a good rule of thumb is I like to slice it in half and put $100 towards the food. But you're correct, David. There is plus, which is tax and gratuity. And I got hit with this recently. There was tax on my gratuity. So I got a bill at the end of an event for like $1.61 a person. So remember that. So there's a formula that I like to use. So I take that $100, I multiply it by 0.80, and that gives me how much I really have for food. So maybe $80 a person. Now you have something to negotiate with at the hotel and a real starting point for your holiday party. So you can say to your caterer, your catering manager, I have $80 a person plus for my budget. That's going to prevent you from going over budget. That also puts you in control of the event. Managing that budget is empowering. Most people think a budget is something to be afraid of, but this gives you a line item of how much you can actually spend.
And obviously you create a spreadsheet or something on it.
Yes, I'm very big on that. Excel spreadsheets. I actually have samples. If people wanted to email me, I'm happy to send you the samples of my budgets that I use. I use them for my students. I teach at the community college, so trust me, they're very easy to utilize.
And so the idea, though, is that first event that they do, they have to think it out entirely before you make one call.
Correct. So many times, and another good reason to start early is, let's say you do want to have red table linen. Well, a party rental store, they're going to be out of red table linen by May 1st. So even if you get that in, but like I said before, so many times we get caught up in how am I going to make it look like Christmas? How am I going to be inclusive to all the religions? And you get caught up in the tablescape and the pretty room. And you have to just go ahead and then put decorations in your budget.
Right. And so what about other events during the year? The hidden planner then gets called for the morale building events, the summer event, the fall event, the company picnic,
the retirement party.
Why it doesn't go to the event department, because the event department is so busy doing the sales and marketing things, right?
Correct.
So what tips do you have when they're given that assignment?
I think that the template is basically the same. What are your goals and objectives? What's your budget? What's your attendance, and what's the profile of your attendee? Okay. And then again, I believe you form a committee and you just do crowdsourcing. What would you like to see at our company picnic?
Right. Now, what about the role of the principals? I believe that I'm on this big tear about CEOs don't know how to be good hosts. Are you seeing that, or how do you to have the hidden planner guide the principal?
I see that a lot in a lot of events that I do. I'm thinking of one right now that's making me giggle a bunch. So I really think you have to write a script. And you have to have some fabulous introduction for the CEO to come out to, whether it's music or they drive a car into the room or they jump from a building into the room on the video screen, something that's really engaging, that's going to catch them off guard. Kathy Overcamp is here from America West. Well, it was America West Airlines. We did once where the CEO climbed up the building. It looked like he was climbing up the building into the ballroom. So anything crazy like that. And then a script is really important because many CEOs have powerful, personalities, but they're not big on small talk because they're so big on the small details. So just right. We want to thank everybody, list everyone that came, and then time them.
What's the rule of thumb for how long a CEO or somebody should be speaking at a holiday party?
Don't you think shorter is better?
I think shorter is much better.
I think over 5 minutes is way too long. 3 is probably perfect.
Yeah, and the whole purpose is to thank everybody.
To thank everybody, acknowledge the committee that put it together, thank the wives and the spouses. Maybe you're going to include the kids. Maybe you're going to have a Santa. But yeah, this is not the time to talk about, we acquired this new company, we opened 10 new stores, and we met all safety regulations.
You also mentioned the fact that you should always invite the spouse. Some people say, oh, let's just invite our employees. What's your I see you wincing.
Yeah, I am wincing a lot. I could not have had any of my job. I got married very late in life, so I had a whole career before my husband. But I could not have had any of the jobs since my marriage without his support, especially being in this industry, right? We work nights, we work weekends, we work when most people are partying.
Right.
Because that is our job, is to put on the party. So, yeah, without Brad's support and help and guidance, I'd probably be a telephone answerer.
So the hidden planner does all these jobs, and they kind of love it. Like, how do they make the transition to Event Pro?
Oh, now that is a great question. I'm going to use a real life example. So my friend, can I say the company?
You can say whatever you want.
Thanks. So my friend Lorianne worked at US Foods, and she did about 500 meetings and events a year, and she really needed help with something. So she went to accounting and human resources. She said, do you have any administrative assistants that you could just loan me for a little bit? So human resources loaned her one, Shelly. And Shelly did some sourcing for her. She did some data entry for her. She did some graphic design for her. And then when an opening came in that meeting planning department, there was no doubt in Lorianne's mind that she was going to ask Shelly. But first, of course, she had to go through human resources because that's where Shelly had worked for 13 years. Well, when Shelly moved into that department, even though she was a little older, it was like a whole new career for her. And that enthusiasm and excitement. Remember when you first started out in the industry, how fun it was?
Yeah.
She still had that passion. It was like a whole new world. It was like a whole new world for her. And so sometimes that helps people get to their next.
Yes. Okay, so HR. When HR becomes a hidden planner, what does that look like, and what advice do you have for the people in those departments?
So I think the first thing about HR is they truly want what's best for the employee. But I believe that they're used to being fiscally conservative and not so lax on the rules. So they, again, probably would want to do some kind of employee survey or lighten up, or even better than that. There's the Society of Human Resource Professionals. Maybe they want to crowdsource with other directors of human resources and see what they've done for their employees, because that might help them relax a little bit more and say it's okay to do that.
So you're advising the CEO of a company, and they're a small company with not a full-time event team, and so they need these hidden planners. What kind of events work really well for these small companies but they need to be coordinated a little bit? Right.
Things that work really well are dinners that start at 6 and end by 9. Maybe a luncheon works really well. And then the outside events, the company picnic, the barbecue. A lot of times it's the CEO that's at the grill. Maybe he's just acting like he knows how to grill, but he looks more like a real average Joe. It's like when you present to the C-suite, they're just average Joes. They just happen to have a different job than you do. So putting them in a different light, making them look more relaxed.
So do you think, or is it happening that that administrative assistants are being trained to handle this task when called upon?
Well, I think there's more and more training going on. I think a big mistake, and I've experienced this on the other end, is you task somebody. So I was doing an event in Phoenix, and they tasked, she had only been with the company 6 months as an administrative assistant. She signed a contract with me for buses on a Tuesday, but the event was on Wednesday. So had that CEO hired or tasked somebody with a little more experience, maybe they would have read the contract a little better. Then she overcommitted on her room block. So in the end...
Yeah, people don't realize that when they cancel... or there's a lot of liabilities that people don't read the small print.
Right. So you have a cancellation clause. You have a certain a number of rooms you're guaranteeing that you're going to utilize. My friend Joyce, this was so cute. She booked her daughter's bat mitzvah at a hotel because the food and beverage minimum was lower than the country club her husband wanted. She never looked at the menus, and she never asked them to hold the pricing for her daughter's bat mitzvah to that year. So in the end, she paid more than if she would have gone to the very fancy country club her husband wanted. So, but she didn't know. Then she asked me to go back, and I said, well, Joyce, once the contract's signed, there's no more negotiation. Now you're into asking for a favor. She said, well, what if I have my other daughter's bat mitzvah here? Well, to a hotel, that's really not a lot of business worth them considering renegotiating that contract.
How do you explain force majeure to a hidden planner?
That when God happens, things happen.
So, but you don't get your money back necessarily.
You don't get your money back necessarily. In fact, I was working for a woman. We were doing affinity tours. So this one was for the Desert Botanical Garden. And she was doing an affinity tour up in this part of Arizona that was on government land. But the government had shut down over that time. So the hotel still held her to the contract because they were able to execute the rooms. It wasn't an act of God that the government shut down. I even experienced that. I was supposed to go speak in Florida, and we had the big hurricanes. And the first guy I talked to on the airline, I said, well, I can't get in or out or whatever. He was not going to allow me to refund my ticket. So you have to be really experienced. You also have to look at all the liabilities issues involved, too, as far as drinking and driving. Sometimes you're better off treating one company in Phoenix. They treat their employees to one night at the hotel. That way they can take the elevator home and they don't have to worry about anybody driving.
That's all the issues.
Yeah.
Wow. So to end this, I mean, we're seeing these hidden planners as a big force. I mean, they're probably the majority of the people that book meetings and events.
I would say so. I would say I have a friend who does site selection, and that is the profile of her client. She looks for the administrative assistant to a CEO at a certain size company and works with them.
And they're doing the board meetings and
oh my God. And those board meetings are big dollars. In fact, that's Nancy's biggest gripe is that the board meetings might be 20 people, so they're given to the executive meeting manager, which is usually the newest person on the team, and they don't really have the experience or that the sense of what that CEO or that board member is expecting.
So where does event design fit into this? Like you have a board meeting and you see this empty, boring table. And is it the job of the venue to sort of fill in, or do people go to an event designer because they see it?
That is a great question. So when I worked for Hyatt, they had something like that. They had their own certification. It was called an LES, and that was a learning environment specialist. So they had certain chairs that were more comfortable. They had tables that were more comfortable. But today we're seeing don't you see all kinds of cute shapes? Beyond hollow squares and U shapes, there's 8-foot tables put together, almost like the round table that you would see in old England, the Knights of the Round Table.
Right.
Anything that you don't have somebody leading the way, where everybody kind of feels a little more interactive and a little more equal. Other things I've seen are crazy, where you have your salad course and then you get up. So the salad is seated and plated, then you get up for your entree at the buffet, but then you have to take a different seat.
Should a hidden planner get into that stuff, or do you think they should keep it simple?
Both. If you know your audience, if you've been doing that at board meeting for 10 years,
you're not really a hidden planner.
Yeah, well, you're not a hidden planner, but maybe you would want to change things up a little bit more.
Right.
But I think when you first start out, it's so overwhelming. You need to really stick to your goals, objective, budget, profile of attendee, and your amenity. Because it's just, as you know, it's so overwhelming.
Yeah. It's also, you're very vulnerable. I mean, you're so open to the senior management, and you make one mistake, I've had the idea where, they create the breakfast and somebody forgets the cream cheese for the bagels, and all of a sudden it's the biggest challenge in the world, right?
Right. And you want to do such a good job and you want it to be to their level. It's so overwhelming. You have to remember that everybody's pocketbook budget is different. And as the hidden planner, if you're doing the holiday party, stick to your budget in your pocketbook. But if you're doing the CEO, stick to that budget. You can't always hold everything to everybody else.
Right. Well, thank you so much for enlightening
thanks,
us on the hidden planner, which I think is a bigger deal than people think.
And we're going to see a lot more of it.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many certification programs coming out now. People can take classes online. You can take a little thing in special events. Any more education is super fabulous. And again, I'm Lynne at lynnewellish.com. Email me any questions. I have taught for 13 years at our community college, so I promise I can explain it in a way that's easy for you to understand.
Great. Thank you, Lynne.
Thanks, David.
Bye.
David, we're back in our podcast studio, and you started the discussion by saying that hidden planners are either the bane of the industry or its future. What do you think?
Well,
What's the
I think
answer?
that as technology improves things and makes it easier to be a planner, more people will have access to it, to the idea of doing it, and it'll be just easier for people down the road. But it's not quite there yet. I believe that, one of the other things I found about a hidden planner is that once they take a taste, they actually love it. Or they hate it.
They know right away.
But they know right away. And then they decide, oh my God, I want to make this my career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another good point that was made is that for hidden planners, your client is the CEO of the company, the one that delegated these tasks to you, but also the rank and file workers. So you need to think about matching your venue, your entertainment, your food to their needs as well.
Right. So great. So what else is going on at BizBash, Beth?
Well, one of our team members who monitors our social media pointed out to me that we had a video that had 12,000 views on Instagram, and that's a big number. And it was from actually an event I went to at our tech house, which just opened in New York. And this has just caught on fire, and people really want to know more about this venue and event. And it got me thinking, if you knew there was something that all of these people had seen and you hadn't seen it, there must be some major FOMO going on in your mind. And so, alleviate that FOMO and check out our Instagram. It's at BizBash.
Yeah.
See what's happening at events all over, more or less in real time, and make sure you're in the know with everyone else.
And as you mentioned, we respect our team incredibly, and the team of people that put together this podcast include Claire Hoffman, who handles the editorial duties, Rebecca Pappas, who gets it out to you through our distribution channels, and Dave Nelson, our producer. So until next time, what do we say, Beth?
Gather on.
Gather on.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Player FM, Google Play, and Pocket Cast. Be sure to leave us a rating and review. It helps others discover the GatherGeeks podcast. We'd also love to hear from you. You can leave feedback on Twitter at GatherGeeks or leave us an email, gathergeeks@bizbash.com. We hope you'll join us again for the next episode of GatherGeeks. Until then, gather on.